At 4 o'clock in the morning on April 15, 1912, the RMS Carpathia cut through the icy silence of the North Atlantic. Guided by distress calls, the Carpathia steamed towards the site where the unsinkable Titanic had met its tragic end. The crew and passengers, many awakened from their slumber, gathered on deck. They huddled together, the biting cold a stark contrast to the warmth of their concern for the souls aboard the stricken vessel. As the first light of dawn painted the sky a mournful grey, the Carpathia arrived at the site. The sight that greeted them was one of unimaginable sorrow. Scattered across the surface of the water were lifeboats, their occupants huddled together, their faces etched with a potent mixture of relief and despair. The vastness of the ocean and the sparseness of the lifeboats served as a stark reminder of the thousands lost beneath the waves. The crew of the Carpathia sprang into action, their training kicking in amidst the emotional turmoil. Lifeboats were carefully brought alongside the ship, their weary passengers helped aboard. Blankets were distributed, warm drinks offered, and cabins prepared. The Carpathia, originally intended to carry 2,500 souls, took on the burden of the 705 survivors of the Titanic. As the last lifeboat was emptied and secured, a heavy silence fell over the Carpathia. The enormity of the tragedy, the scale of the loss, settled upon the survivors and rescuers alike. The Carpathia, now a vessel of mourning, turned south towards New York, carrying with it the survivors and the stories of those who were lost. The survivors of the Titanic found themselves aboard the Carpathia in varying states of shock and disbelief. Many were still clad in their nightclothes, having fled the sinking ship with little more than their lives. The warmth of the Carpathia's blankets and the kindness of her crew offered little comfort against the cold reality of their situation. Families huddled together, taking comfort in the presence of loved ones, while others faced the agonizing uncertainty of not knowing the fate of those they held dear. Whispers of loss echoed through the ship, each tale of survival intertwined with the heartbreak of those left behind. The children, wrapped in blankets too large for their small frames, stared with wide, uncomprehending eyes at the adults around them, their silence speaking volumes. Yet amidst the despair there were flickers of hope. Mothers clutched their children tightly, grateful for their survival. Friends embraced, finding solace in their shared experience. And in the eyes of some, a steely determination began to emerge, a will to honor the memory of the lost by embracing the precious gift of life. The journey to New York was a somber one, a shared silence enveloping the survivors. The world outside the Carpathia seemed oblivious to the tragedy that had unfolded, the sun rising and setting with an indifference that was both unsettling and comforting. As the days passed, the survivors began to come to terms with their experiences, their stories slowly emerging, each one a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable loss. On the evening of April 18th, the Carpathia, her flags flying at half-mast, arrived in New York Harbor. A crowd of thousands awaited her arrival, their faces etched with anxiety and grief. The sinking of the Titanic had sent shockwaves across the globe, and the world held its breath, eager for news of survivors. As the Carpathia docked, a hush fell over the crowd. The sight of the lifeboats, now empty and lashed to the deck of the ship, served as a stark reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded. Tears flowed freely as families were reunited, their embraces a mixture of joy and relief. But for many, there was only the agonizing confirmation of their worst fears. The days following the Carpathia's arrival were a blur of activity. Journalists clamored for interviews, eager to share the survivors' stories with a world hungry for information. Government officials conducted inquiries, determined to understand the cause of the disaster, and amidst the chaos, the survivors struggled to come to terms with their experiences, their lives forever altered by the events of that fateful night. The sinking of the Titanic had a profound impact on New York City and the world. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the capricious nature of the sea. The disaster also exposed the social inequalities of the time, as the vast majority of those lost were steerage passengers, highlighting the stark divide between the classes.